Okay, boys and girls, we've been talking about theme, and today we're going to work a little bit more with it. As a reminder, what is theme? Theme is a life lesson, meaning, moral, or message about life or human nature that is communicated by a literary work. In other words, theme is what the story teaches us as readers. A theme is not a word, it is a sentence or statement. You don't have to agree with the theme to identify it. Some examples are money can't buy happiness. We've heard this time and time again with watching movies and things like that, where there's, this guy or this lady who just feels like, all of their troubles will be, gone if they just had more money. And then as the plot continues and events take place in the movie, they attain the money, but then they find themselves at the end still lonely, right? Because they've got all these new friends and people around them, and then they start to learn the lesson that maybe these people aren't around me for me. They're just around me for my money, and they still feel lonely. So that's a universal theme that has been played out over time. Don't judge people based on the surface. This was something we discussed yesterday about the whole American Idol and Katy Perry incident. And basically what that is don't judge a book by its cover. Just because someone dresses a certain way or they look a certain way, you just don't know what's on the inside and what they're capable of, all the great things that, or qualities I should say, about them. Okay. We're going to look at some scenarios. Actually, we're going to look at one or two today, okay? And I want you to be thinking about what lesson could the character be learning. All right, here we go. Jenny Pochovier was so excited. She had a pack of Starburst in her lunch, and she had been looking forward to eating them all morning. Lunch finally came, and Jenny sat down to eat her Starburst when her friend Judy sat next to her. "Let me get the pink ones," asked Judy. Jenny liked the pink ones best, but she thought Judy was funny, and Jenny wanted Judy to like her, so Jenny gave Judy all of her pink Starburst. Before Jenny was done giving Judy the pink ones, Carrie sat on the other side of Jenny. "Hey, let me get the red and the orange ones, Jenny. Remember when I gave you that Snickers?" Jenny didn't remember that, though she did remember when Carrie ate a whole Snickers in front of her. But Jenny thought Carrie was cool, so she gave her the red and the orange Starburst. Now that she only had the yellow ones, Jenny wasn't so excited about eating Starburst anymore. What would be a possible theme? What lesson could Jenny have possibly learned? You can't buy friends, right? You have to take care of yourself. And not everybody is your friend. As you know, she hearkened back, or she remembered, I should say, for you guys, to the time where, Carrie ate the Snickers in front of her and she didn't offer her anything, right? But now that she has something that all of these people want, now they're trying to be nice to her, right? And so not everybody is truly your friend. All right, let's look at the next one. Sometimes themes are not explicit. Themes are sometimes implied, where you have to infer. And we talked about this yesterday when we went over our anchor charts, right? Stated versus implied. Themes are bigger than the story. We discussed this yesterday. You go from the small world of the story, meaning being very specific, pulling out, okay, what's happening to the character, to big world of theme, where it applies to the real world. Remember when we talked about how that theme can be applied to any story, when we were talking about Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and not really applying that over to wonder if we're just talking about Goldie, okay? Again, themes are about the big picture. So when we look back at our scenario, this particular theme was not about yellow starburst tasting bad. It wasn't about Judy and Carrie being bad friends, even though, You have to think much bigger. Find real world advice. Remember we talked about theme being like a bumper sticker. It's broad, okay? Let's review. Theme is what we can learn from a story. Themes must be inferred, where we use clues from the story. We use information or knowledge that we already have, and when we add those together, we can make an inference. Themes are about the big world. It's not about specifically a character in the story, okay? So let's practice. We're going to read each story, and you are going to now take out your reading journal, and you're going to jot down very quickly. You're going to number them, scenario 1, 2, and 3, and you're going to jot down what you think the theme is in your reading journal, okay? And then you're going to add another sentence explaining what happens in the story that leads you to believe this. Please make sure that you guys are doing this because we are going to be sharing out, okay? How does the small world of the story connect to the big world theme? That's what I want you to be thinking about. Scenario number 1. Once there was a mean little boy who lived in a small village. This mean little boy loved to mess with people. So one day he ran up to a sheep herder and shouted, "Wolf! Wolf! A wolf is attacking the town." The sheep herder grabbed his staff and ran to defend the town, but realized he had been fooled when the boy started pointing and laughing at him. "I made you jump," said the boy. Then the boy ran up to a farmer and shouted, "Wolf! Wolf! A wolf is attacking the town." The farmer grabbed his pitchfork and ran to defend the town. But when the boy started pointing and laughing at him, he realized he had been tricked. As the boy went back to his family's farm laughing about the funny trick he'd played, he saw a real wolf in his father's chicken coop. As the wolf ate all of his father's chickens, the boy screamed over and over again, "Wolf! Wolf! Please help us!" But nobody came. I want you to take a moment, and I want you to jot down what you think the theme or the lesson is that this little boy learned. Here are some examples. If you wrote something close to this, awesome sauce. You're on the right track. Don't ask for help unless you really need it. Don't play tricks on people around you. Okay? Let's look at scenario 2. Angie loved to draw. She made colorful designs of people's names with bright hearts and flowers. But she lost her own markers, so she borrowed her teacher's. The school day was ending, but Angie wanted to keep coloring, so she took the teacher's markers home and lost them in her messy room. She came back to school the next day and wanted to color again, so she asked the teacher for more markers. The teacher replied, "Sure, Angie, but this is my last pack." Angie said that she would be careful, but by the end of the day, the markers were scattered all over the floor, and the custodian swept them up and disposed of them. When Angie came in the next day, she asked the teacher for more markers, but she was disappointed to find that there weren't any more. "I don't know where all of my markers went," said the teacher, "but I don't have them." Angie had to draw her pictures with drab pencils. So again, I want you to take just a minute or two to jot down what you think the lesson is that Angie learned. Okay? And remember, if you need to reread, That's perfectly okay, because that is what good readers do. Okay, and once you've written down what lesson or theme you think Angie has learned, then I want you to back it up or support it, justify it, defend it with a statement, right, from the text that helped you to arrive at that particular theme. Okay. Finally, let's look here at the possible answers. Angie could have learned a lesson about taking care of shared resources, because when she needed some, right, there weren't any more, because she kept taking and taking, and she didn't care about basically taking care of the things that were loaned out to her. And so when she needed them again, there weren't any there for her to be able to use. So she learned a lesson about taking care of shared resources. Some things will not replenish after they are exhausted, meaning once you use something up and you just keep using it, and again, you don't care about just using stuff up, right? And when there aren't any more markers left, then there's nothing that the teacher can do. They've all been exhausted. They've all been used. All right. Finally, let's look at scenario number 3. Jenny hated reading class. She didn't understand point of view or figurative language, and not knowing how to do the work frustrated her. She asked the teacher for help, but he spoke so fast and used such big words that she still couldn't understand. The teacher asked if she understood, and she nodded her head, but she didn't. Jenny's friend Katie knew that Jenny was having trouble, and rather than just giving Jenny all of the answers, Katie explained to Jenny how to solve the problems. Katie spoke clearly and at Jenny's level, and Jenny was happy that she finally learned how to do the work. And later in the week, Katie was having trouble in math class. She didn't understand coordinates, and she was really frustrated. Seeing that Katie was having problems, Jenny, who now understood math very well, taught Katie the coordinates. Both girls made honor roll that quarter. And again, finally, I want you to go ahead and jot down what you think the theme is, and then 1 or 2 statements to justify your response. Okay? Let's look at some possible answers. Cooperation is the key to success. Okay, so they were working together, where one of them understood one subject, that person helped them, and the other person understood the opposite subject. So they kind of helped each other. They were cooperating, right? We can all do better when we work together. So, again, I want you to think